Okay, hello. So I'd like to welcome you now to the Professional Communications module for the class. So this one is actually a pretty big module where we're going to cover a lot of different material for the next few weeks. So now, a few things I want to mention here. First of all, you'll notice in the syllabus and also written up here in the goals here, we're going to be spending 3 weeks on this topic. And during the first week, I'd like you to focus on doing the assignments from this Twitter fundamentals and Facebook fundamentals. So you'll be doing those two submodules for the first week. But then after that, you will have the option of choosing your own adventure, so to speak, for the rest of this from the other options. So you'll notice we are going to have modules on blogging, podcasting, PowerPoint, or Prezi. You can pick between one of those two, but don't do both of them. YouTube, developing a web page using Google Sites, or developing a web page using WordPress. So what's going to happen now, after the first week where you do the Facebook or Twitter, after that you'll be able to choose from this list, from blogging down to the web page, and each week you'll be assigned to do 2 of those submodules. Now, an important caveat, it's important to remember that you can there's one thing that's required though. You must do either PowerPoint or Prezi, and you can only choose one of them. Beyond that, the door is open for you to do these assignments however you see fit for those 2 weeks. So you could do blogging and podcasting and PowerPoint and YouTube if you felt like it. Maybe if you really want to learn how to make a web page though, you can do a web page, YouTube, PowerPoint. You can mix these however you want. Just pick 2 for each week and then move forward. And then they'll all be due on Sunday at 11:59, the same time. So if you start the week on a Monday, that Sunday everything will be due. Okay? So now, why am I giving you all these options? Well, because there are many ways that exist for us to communicate with a general population, and so I wanted to make sure there are different levels, there's different abilities, different people have tried different ones of these, and so rather than assume that I can kind of cover everything by forcing everyone to do the same path, I figured it would be better if you guys just chose your own adventure on this one. So in case you don't have any knowledge of any of these, I'm going to very quickly just kind of go through what each one of these are to make sure you have a sense of this. So, and what will be covered in each one of these. So first of all, the Facebook fundamentals for professionals. I'm sure almost all of you know what Facebook is, right? But there's a very important thing, which is, you can actually create, Facebook pages that are separate from your pages. So you'll see there's often this distinction between people and pages. And so this assignment will be to show you how to create these pages, find people that might be of interest for you, to be examples of for your work, and basically create a professional presence for you on Facebook. Okay, so that's what that module will be about. Twitter, on the other hand, Twitter is a very valuable tool actually for sharing and networking with other people, other professionals. And so this is Twitter in case you've never seen it. This will basically be a place for you to actually this is me logged onto mine, but you can see this is a space for you to get involved in creating a space for yourself and a professional presence. It's a good way to share the information. So I'm starting with these two because in many ways the Facebook and Twitter are really important pathways for sharing all the other information that you create. So let me just go back to this list. Okay, so blogging. We're going to go through how to develop a blog using WordPress, but you can also use another web page if you want to called Tumblr. They're both the two really popular ones. But the reason why you might want to choose to use the blogging one if you've never done it is blogging is a really important space for allowing you to really think through ideas and really become an expert in a given area, and sharing that through a pathway other than scientifically reviewed publications. So we'll go into more detail on kind of the advantages of blogging there. Now, of course, there's also another option of sharing information, which is through podcasts. And so I imagine some of you may have listened to podcasts. These are just basically audio recordings of things. Usually, maybe it's some news program or something of that sort. Podcasts, I tend to think about podcasts as being really advantageous for if you want someone to really kind of go for a walk or doing some activity, but you want them to be engaged in learning something. I think podcasts are a really nice pathway for you to engage and do that. So if you want to learn how to do podcasts, we've got a module for that. Of course, probably the most viral way of getting information out is through YouTube, so we'll be discussing YouTube. And so you can see, like for example, this one here, this one, Mike Evans, if you go into YouTube and type in Mike Evans 23.5 hours, and he's got this really...
Dr. Mike Evans, and welcome to this visual lecture I'm calling 23.5 hours. So I have a big interest in preventive medicine, which can mean a lot of things from...
Okay, so again, this is a long video, but he actually developed a full lecture on kind of the importance of physical activity and preventative medicine, and he did it through this kind of sketching thing, which I think is very interesting. There's lots of ways that we as professionals can provide our information back. So this is one pathway. You can also use Prezi, which we'll get to in a second, which is a really nice thing, or you can even use PowerPoint presentations and create stuff like that. But so I'll just be kind of covering this very briefly, how to get information out, how to maybe make some YouTube videos, how to make your own channel, and to start to share your work that way. Okay. Oh yeah, so I skipped actually to YouTube. You'll notice PowerPoint. I think you all probably have seen and heard PowerPoint, but there are a lot of ways to make good PowerPoint slides. Like for example, I put an example of one of the ones that I created. And then there's lots of ways to create bad PowerPoint slides. And so we'll basically be discussing some of the fundamentals for making good PowerPoint slides, making them visually appealing and interesting and engaging and not too full of text and things of that sort. So that's what this module will be about. Now Prezi, in case you've never seen Prezi, it's another style of presentation. And I think particularly Prezi is a very interesting pathway because what it does is it focuses, this is Prezi, in case you want to see. This is one of the ones one of my students actually developed for another class that she allowed me to use here. So you can see here the idea is that you can actually create these visual images for moving through a space, and it does this kind of zooming in, zooming out process. The neat thing about Prezi is that it really kind of sets up something so you can do much more emphasis on the most important and least important things. So for example, actually you can see this was one of the ones that my mentor at Stanford created. Let me actually reload this whole thing just so I can get the fresh one. And so she did a really great job. I'll send a link to this one. But what you can see here is you can actually create a very nice pathway for moving through information. And so particularly when you get into the visuals. So you can see you can like kind of map out these things, set up spaces. And then, you have this full landscape, for example. I think this is a really nice example where, you see this broad view, but then you can do this interesting stuff with zooming where you can get into very specific details that you might want to focus on. So you kind of have this visual landscape that you're using to frame other information. So particularly if you're trying to think visually about things, you might have this road less traveled, for example, as an example she was working from. Where you can kind of have this broader image, but then you can really make these very small images to really highlight, core important points. So Prezi, I think, is a very interesting topic, but it's also easy to use it wrong. So going to kind of discuss kind of ways of making a Prezi presentation. Again, you can pick either between PowerPoint or Prezi. We talked about YouTube. And then finally, some of you may want to actually create your own web pages. And web pages are obviously very important for, kind of creating a web presence if you're creating a business, or if you've got other work that you're doing, or if you want to integrate a lot of these things that I already showed. You can integrate all this stuff into a web page. And so there are actually, we'll actually discuss basics on what HTML is and how that code works. But in addition to that, I want to then get into two sites that you can use. One, Google Sites, which I think is particularly easy to use, or WordPress, which is actually the place for making web pages, for making blogs. So you'll see here when you make web pages on Google, we'll go into this, but you can very quickly make sites for projects you might be working on or things of that sort. And it's quick, easy. There's lots of drop-down menus and things like that to create your web pages, so you don't actually have to know how to write code, although you can if you want to. WordPress tends to take a little bit more coding, but really not much. It's still here. They have lots of interesting plugins and themes and ways to make it more mobile, and so we'll just kind of go through the basics on how to set up a web page using WordPress as well. So again, you can pick and choose the ones that you want from this list. You have to do Facebook and Twitter during the first week, but then during the second, third week, you can pick from any of these as long as you do either PowerPoint or Prezi. Okay, So good hunting with this. I hope you enjoy working through these professional communication pathways.